and welcome. We're so excited to bring you this special, virtual behind the scenes of Wicked. Of course, we hope to see you at our home, the Apollo Victoria Theatre soon, but for now, sit back, relax and enjoy as we fly you behind the Emerald Curtain to our magical world of Oz.
It's impossible to think of the global musical theatre landscape without this show. Seen by over 60 million people across the world, Wicked has won over 100 major awards as well as the hearts of all audiences who experience it. And so, it is with enormous pleasure that we welcome Stephen Schwartz and Winnie Holzman to speak with us. Wicked has cemented its status as a classic musical in the West End. For anyone who doesn't know the show, can you tell us what it's about?
Our show is a prequel to the story of The Wizard of Oz, telling the story of Oz from the point of view of the Wicked Witch of the West, rather than from Dorothy, the little girl. The Wicked Witch of the West in our show is a heroine and a very brave young woman who stands up to the corruption that she finds all around her in Oz. So it's like a story that leads you to understand an old story in a brand new way.
One little factor about Elphaba, the young woman who becomes the Wicked Witch of the West, she's green. And she's the only green person in Oz. And so this causes her to be an outcast. She begins by trying to find a way to fit in, but then ultimately comes to the realization that what she would have to give up in terms of her own integrity in order to do so, as we say in the song Defying Gravity, it comes at much too high a cost.
Can you tell us a bit about the landscape of Broadway at the time of writing Wicked and how you think this helped towards the show's success?
There were a lot of jukebox musicals coming up, and there weren't that many sort of brand new musicals with an original idea, original score, etc. But I think one of the things that happened for us was the story of this strong friendship between two women, and the central character being a powerful young woman. That was sort of ahead of the curve, I think. And I think those two elements have contributed greatly to Wicked becoming more than just a successful show and becoming a kind of cultural phenomenon.
One day we kind of looked at each other and went, wow, I'm not sure there's ever been a musical that quite celebrated a female friendship the way this one does, that ends up being a great strength of the show.
Can you tell us about Gregory Maguire's book and how it inspired you?
I was on a holiday with friends, and one of my friends happened to say in passing in idle conversation, "Oh, I'm reading this really interesting book. It's by Gregory Maguire, and it's called Wicked, and it's kind of the Oz story from the Wicked Witch's point of view." First of all, every hair on my neck and arms stood up, and I just thought, well, that's one of the most genius ideas I've ever heard. And so then I both ran out to get the book and immediately started the quest to get the rights to turn it into a musical.
So I know we've touched on friendship, but I'd like to go a little bit deeper, and I would like to know what the core message of the show is and how is it still relevant to audiences today and beyond?
You've got these two young women, and they find a way, through learning from each other, to truly step into their own brand of power and to use that power, dare I say, for good.
At the end of the show, we have another standout song, For Good. It's undoubtedly one of the most emotional parts of the show. Stephen, can you tell us how you came to write this song and what is its place in the show?
Well, I knew that the last song was going to be the emotional heart of the show, and that we had to get it right, and therefore I avoided writing it for a very long time. But when I finally felt ready, I called Winnie and I said, okay, I think I'm ready to tackle this song. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what are they saying to one another in this song. And Winnie started to extemporize, And at one point in this conversation, she said, well, after all, I mean, they've had this huge impact on one another. They've really changed each other for good. And I said, stop. I'm hanging up right now. At that time, my daughter Jessica was visiting, and she has a friend that she has known since they were both like 7 years old. And so I went to Jessica with a yellow pad in hand, and I said, I want you to imagine that you are never going to see your friend Sarah again. And you have one chance to tell her what she means to you. What would you say? And then Jess extemporized, and she said about people coming into our lives for a reason and several other things, and I wrote these things down. And basically what she said became the first verse of the song. And I think one of the reasons that people respond to the song so strongly is because it's true, because it was about a real relationship.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow, if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes a sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for good. It well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring by the wind of the sea, like a sea dropped by a skybird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good. And just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things I've done you blame me for. But then I guess we know there's blame to share, and none of it seems to matter anymore. As it passes a sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? I do believe I have been changed for the better. And because I knew you, because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed
Already the 9th longest running musical in London theatre history. Next year, Wicked will celebrate 15 years of being in the West End. And for the first time in that history, we are unable to celebrate with you, our audiences, and our fans. We are missing our Aussies very much, and we are delighted to be able to answer some of your questions now.
Thank you so much for sending in all your questions for us. I'm going to try my best to get you the answers that you want from my castmates. And here they are. Hi guys. Okay, here we go. Our first question is, what are you looking forward to most about getting back to performing on stage?
I'm most looking forward to getting back on stage with my wonderful cast and crew and being together again as a family.
And feeling like there was energy and that creativity and
Actually telling this incredible story.
And sharing it with an audience, hearing their response back to us.
That first show back will just be incredible.
Do you still get nervous during a performance?
1,000 Aussie%.
I still get nervous, yeah, absolutely.
No, I don't get nervous actually, I just get really excited.
Laura, this one is for you. How long does it take to apply the green makeup and how long does it take to get it off after the show?
It takes about 20 minutes to put it on, but luckily I don't have to do it myself. And I've got an amazing team who do it for me and they all do a beautiful job. Taking it off, that's all down to me, and so how long it takes depends on how thorough I am. So for a completely green-free zone, I'd say about 20 to 30 minutes.
How do you maintain energy and enthusiasm for each performance?
coffee. A hell of a lot of coffee.
I think it's vitally important that you play each night as if it's the first time you've ever told the story.
The show has energy, it's a magical land.
I remind myself how lucky I am to do what I love and how lucky I am to do it every day.
How are you maintaining your voice and your physical fitness during this time?
I'm doing lots of running, some home workouts.
I'm doing lots of vocal rest. Wicked is a really big sing.
I'm a fitness instructor, so I'll be doing loads of live classes here from my front room, which has been kind of cool.
A bit of rather reluctant jogging, but it is doing me good.
Do you still have to remind yourself of your lines before a performance?
Oh yes, totally. I am so going to have to sit down with the script and have a good old revise before we go back to work.
Sometimes I am my own worst enemy and I convince myself that I have forgotten my lines or I've gone over them too many times or I question what a line is and then I get a bit panicky and I'm on stage trying to think, oh, what's the line? And then it just comes out.
Is there any part of the show that you found particularly challenging to learn, and if so, how did you crack it in the end?
The dance numbers, there's lots of stuff that is very similar but different.
There is a section in the show called Ballroom Cross and probably looks very straightforward. But for some reason it took me a really long time to get that into my system.
If you could create your own Fantasyland, what would it look like?
There would be sun. There would be lots of sun.
I see sun lounges, I see beach bars.
And there'll be loads of cats, because I love cats.
I don't think I'd mind what my Fantasyland looked like so much, as long as it was very fabulous and comfortable, obviously.
If you could cast a magic spell, what would it be?
I would 1000% give myself wings.
Right now would be to get rid of coronavirus.
And mainly for people to just be happy and healthy.
Laura, this one is another one for you. How challenging is Defying Gravity to perform, particularly that huge last note?
Defying Gravity is a challenging song. It is a big sing for any singer, you know, so to actually be doing it in the moment as the character when the whole of Act 1 has been building up to that point it can feel like a lot of pressure, but in the role you kind of just take it on as Elphaba and she wouldn't be afraid.
What is your favourite part of the show?
Oh, this is such a hard question.
My favourite part of the show is watching Elphaba sing No Good Deed.
I do love The Wizard and I. I've always loved that song.
If I had to choose, I would say For Good.
first of all, I'm going to say Defying Gravity, watching Laura fly every night is just incredible. And the second is For Good. It happens at the end of the show. It's a beautiful moment just between the two girls, and I think really sums up our wonderful show and is the real heartbeat of our story.
With this being such an iconic story, how do you control any pressure to get it right night after night?
I think it's important to remember that we're only human and we all make mistakes and we're not going to be perfect all the time.
I do like to remind myself that, you know, the creative team had faith in me.
The team are very supportive, and I think it goes back to the rehearsal period that you spend so long making it perfect.
Just stay true to the story and tell it as best we can.
Here we go, final question. If you could tap your shoes together and be transported to another place, where would you go?
I would go to Norway to see the Northern Lights.
The Maldives.
Jamaica.
I think I'd have to say Bermuda.
A beautiful tropical beach with great snorkeling and, of course, a fabulous cocktail waiting for me.
Take me to Barbados, take me to the other side of the world, take me to somewhere I've never been before and let me explore.
Wicked transports audiences to a magical land with an abundance of quirk and particular identity, not least through its very own Osmopolitan language. Winnie, can you explain how this is used to help forge a sense of place and of being in Oz? Are there some characters more prone to using it than others?
We wanted to remind people in a fun way, in a lighthearted way, that they weren't in our world, that they were in another world called Oz that had its own rules and cultural ways of being. And the language thing just came to me as I just was looking for a way to really make that something that was happening. I'm sure I was partly inspired by Gregory's book, which had all sorts of strange little details like that. I think I sort of fell in love with it a bit, and I started to almost use it so much, and finally Stephen sort of pulled me back. And just the right amount, I think, left in the show, you know, because I would have kept going. The wizard himself never uses those words, I don't think, because the wizard is not from that world. So I differentiated things that way. And Stephen and I often say that to each other that something is very confusifying when it is.
Yeah,
and
now
I'm not even.
Let's use it in real life.
Yes, we use it in real life.
I use horrendable all the time.
Yes, I do too. Sometimes something really just is horrendable, and you have to call it that.
To give you a flavour of the language used in the show, we asked some of our company to tell us their favourite Ozian phrases.
Braverism. Now, braverism means a quality of courage, often lacking in lions and wonderful wizards, that can reach tremendous proportions. An example of this being used is by Madame Morrible, when she addresses those of the Emerald City and Glinda by saying, "As press secretary, I have striven to ensure that all Oz knows the story of your braverism, how vividly I remember."
Congratulations, which is a somewhat unctuous form of public approval. You hear this when we find out about Glinda and Fiero's engagement during the show, when all the revelers come together to scream and shout and celebrate.
Congratulations!
My favourite word is encouragerized. It's used to inspire even the most cowardly to raise up their heads or their manes. We hear this from Nessa, Elphaba's sister, when she gets asked to go to a party by Boq. She says, "Boq was too shy to ask me at first, but once Garlinda encouragerized him."
My favourite is festivating. It means to party raucously and with reckless abandon, usually done after the melting or crushing of witches. It is used when Madame Morrible says to Glinda, "Glinda, why I thought you'd be out festivating."
My favourite word is Galindified. It is used when something is made to look pretty or perfect, sometimes at the expense of one's true feelings. Fiero uses it when he notices Elphaba's makeover by Glinda by saying, "You've been Galindified. Toss, toss."
The best word for me is gratitude. It's a feeling of thankfulness. We hear Glinda saying this to Madame Morrible most sincerely when she says, "A training wand. How can I express my gratitude?
One of my favourite words in the show is osmopolitan. I think it's such a trendy word. And the word is to indicate niftiness and worldliness. And one of the lines in the show by Glinda is the nightlife, the hustle and bustle. It's also osmopolitan.
Now, the phrase I love the most is thrillifying, and it's used in Wicked to describe when something is extremely exciting. For example, when you're invited to meet the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Now, one of the points it's used in the show is at this time when Morrible is speaking to Elphaba and she gives her much anticipated invitation. Oh, I have thrillifying news! I just heard back from the wizard, and my dear, he wishes to meet you!
I love the word scandalacious. It's used when something is so bad, it's good. We hear it when we meet Fiero for the first time. That's Fiero Tickler. He's that Winky Prince whose reputation is so scandalacious.
Swankified. Used to depict something that's made to look fancier than it actually is. So, for example, a green-skinned witch with a pointy hat. Fiero uses it when he's trying to suss out the social scene at Shears University. So, what's the most swankified place in town?
Each performance of Wicked takes a whole village of people to make it happen. Now, some stage roles are more obvious than others, but there are some roles you might not even know are there. So let's find out more about these hidden roles from the very people who live and breathe them.
Hi guys, Amy Webb here, standby Elphaba at Wicked in London. We're going to do a little Q&A. Here we go. As a standby, my only job is to be there to cover Elphaba. So I'm basically backstage, standing by, just in case, touch wood, anything was to happen during the show and I would have to be thrown on straight away. An understudy tends to have another job within the show.
So the difference between a swing and an ensemble member is that an ensemble member does one track 8 times a week.
And then the swings know multiple tracks, some of them covering the main parts as well. And then if an ensemble member is on holiday or sick, the swings can jump into the show.
One of the most exciting things about being a swing is that no day is ever the same.
So on a one-show day, we get the OS text at about 2 o'clock, and then you know if you're on for the evening or if you're not on.
Maybe about 6:15, 6:20, you'll head downstairs to the stage, you'll do a physical warm-up with the dance captains who are amazing.
Definitely a vocal warm-up all together.
Then the show starts.
And sometimes I watch the show, I go up to what's called the tower at the very top of the theatre.
And that takes you through to about 10:15, where you'll return the costumes to your dressers, you'll grab all your stuff, you'll go home and go to sleep and wake up to do it all again the next day.
Each rehearsal process is so different, and especially with Wicked, because each track that you learn is so individual to that person.
I have to learn every single bit of choreography, so I've at least done it 3 or 4 times, so that when I watch it, I relate to it.
You really have to compartmentalise your brain.
So we start to create our swing Bibles during rehearsal process, where you draw on each different person's positions.
The most challenging thing about being a swing for me is that you might be on from Monday to Wednesday as a certain person, and then Thursday to Friday as a certain person, and then 2 shows on Saturday. So that's the really tricky thing about being a swing, is always being switched on. There's no autopilot.
You just have to make sure that you remember everyone's traffic, everyone's harmonies, and try not to mess up.
I think one of the best things about being a swing is that you get to experience the show in a 360.
I think what I've learned is that you have to be quick and adaptable.
Something I've learned as an understudy is that there's just so much going on behind the scenes and up in the offices that people just don't know about.
The confidence in knowing how resilient you are as an actor.
I always make sure I'm going to the gym at least twice, 3 times a week doing a spin class.
The most important thing for me to do is stretch before I go on stage, and for fun, the girls in the girls' dressing room, we like to put on some good music, have a dance around, have a sing around, and just create a good atmosphere and a good energy before we have to go on stage.
Oh my gosh, my first Elphaba show. That was the most incredible, insane day. I got a call from our company manager at 11 a.m. and he said, "You're on, it's happening."
Even though you know you're ready, you know all your lines, you know all your staging, you know everything, even though all of that is there and ready to go, the nerves just are something like I can't even describe.
I had all my family there, everyone had booked their tickets, and it was amazing. It was incredible, I'll never forget it.
When I was part of Wicked UK tour, I was first cover understudy, and I had to run off from my ensemble track mid-show. Had about 20 minutes to get ready for Elphaba and continue the show in that role. It's crazy, it's a whirlwind. You can't actually quite believe it's happening. You're surrounded by an amazing team. They get you ready so quickly, it blows your mind.
We do get to watch the show. We can watch it whenever we like.
I try and watch the show at least once a week.
As dance captain, with my fellow dance captain Libby, we try to watch the show 3 to 4 times a week.
To actually sit there and watch it, you appreciate your job and how lucky we are to actually do something that we are so passionate about and that we love in one of the biggest theatres in the West End. So I definitely try to watch the show as much as I can. Thanks, guys.
It's fair to say that Defying Gravity is the killer song of the show, often performed by fans and singers around the world. What do you think makes this song so successful, both in the show itself and in wider popular culture?
In the show itself, I think it's one of those moments where all of the collaborators are kind of firing at their absolute highest level. Joe Mantello, our director, staged it brilliantly. He and costume designer Susan Hilferty had this astounding idea about this dress that expands as Elphaba rises into the air. And then Kenny Posner did what I think is the best lighting in the history of musical theater. And all of that came together and led to this moment where, when it was over, the whole theater just roared. In terms of the song's popularity beyond, one of the themes of the show, one of the things that happens in the show, is a young woman who perceives herself as an outcast and a misfit discovers her own power and comes into her power. And that's what's happening during the song. And I think that has a lot of appeal to other people who may feel themselves outsiders in some way or another. In celebrating Elphaba coming into her power, they feel power rising in themselves. And I think that is what makes them want to sing it.
Something has changed within me. Something is not the same. I'm through with playing by the rules of someone else's game. Too late for second guessing. Too late to go back to sleep. It's time to trust my instincts. Close my eyes and leave. It's time to try to find gravity. I think I'll try defying gravity, and you can't pull me down. my future is unlimited. And I've just had a vision, almost like a prophecy. I know it sounds truly crazy, and true, the vision's hazy, but I swear someday I'll be flying so high, defying gravity. I'm flying high, defying gravity, and you can't pull me down.